Salutations, respected viewers. This is George from Ireland. I'm continuing my series about how to debate. So I shall be doing a debate with myself about this following motion. This House believes that university education should be free of charge. So I'm going to argue for the proposition. Later I shall argue for the opposition. So imagine that you're the chair looking at me. So the chair's right-hand side, that's that side, from where I'm looking at it, because I'm looking the opposite direction of the chair, the proposition would of course sit on the right-hand side of the chairman. So you'll see me mostly in profile, arguing across the chamber at the opposition, but occasionally looking at the chair to address the chair when I begin my exordium. So that's that. We'll begin in a moment. It'll be quite a brief, simple debating speech, an introduction to the idea of debating. So imagine that the chair has introduced me and gets the debate to kick off. Madam Chair, ladies and gentlemen of the House, university education ought to be free of charge for a number of reasons. First of all, education is a right. Second of all, it improves the quality of education. Third of all, it is an enormous fillip to the economy. And fourthly, it is an issue of social justice. So I shall go over those points again in greater depth. My first point was that it is a right, which it certainly is. Look at the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in 1948, and that entitles everyone to a free education. It's only talking about schooling, but education has expanded enormously since the 1940s, in an era when most people in the world were illiterate. Think about that. Most people were illiterate in the 40s, never got to go to school for a single day. If the opposition's attitude had prevailed, we would still have that situation. Most people would never have even got to go to school because they couldn't afford it, because it wasn't publicly funded. Well, the world has moved on, and because of public funding, now tertiary education has opened up to the masses, and it's a very good thing too. Unfortunately, there's been some regression in the past few years, and some greedy governments have taken away the right of free education, have deprived people of free university education just so they can give more money to the super rich and the greedy. Anyway, how it's better to have tax funding education. When people pay for something, they feel they've bought it. Right? They feel they've paid for their degree, so they must be awarded it. And not simply awarded it with a high grade. They'll be complaining if they don't get a first, which is why more and more first-class degrees are awarded. It's called grade inflation. So it leads to dumbing down. They make the content less, they make it easier, and people complain, and dons, professors, lecturers, are afraid to issue lower grades or indeed fail people. So there's no quality control under their system because it's all about buying things and not about the intrinsic value. In the old days when university was publicly funded, professors had the authority they deserved. And because they were the experts, they could say, no, not good enough, you can fail. And it's astonishing. Ron Paul, an American Republican politician, he said the staggering thing with higher education is we've increased the price and decreased the value. Well, we propose to do the opposite. I'll come on to my point about how it's a tremendous boost to the economy. The more educated people are, the wealthier we're going to be. The most impoverished countries have the highest rates of illiteracy and very low university graduation rates. So we're giving people intellectual capital. Blair 20 years ago talked about the knowledge economy. Creativity is going to be the most important skill in the future, they say, as robots take over many of the mundane and menial jobs. So when I go to my doctor, I benefit from her education. So university education doesn't benefit just the person receiving it, it benefits wider society. It just makes us more civilized and more human to be more highly educated. We can live more fulfilled lives as well as enriching the country, literally enriching as well as culturally. Fourth of all, as I said, it's an issue of social justice. People who come from very low-income families find it very difficult to go to university. Even if the opposition is saying they can pay back afterwards, well, these people are at a very great disadvantage compared to those who come from an affluent family whose parents can afford to pay for the fees up front or indeed pay for them afterwards. And so many very bright people who do not have much money are put off getting a higher education because they think it's so expensive. So we must no longer have this disincentive to people realizing the greatest of their potential. It's absolutely right that those who are wealthy should be required to give a tiny fraction of their wealth to those who are needy and help poorer people attain a higher education that they deserve. It's wrong that people, just because they're rich, even if they're low academic aptitude, even if they make no effort, can get degrees. And I've seen it happen. It's a disgrace. Whereas those who are very brainy and tremendously hardworking are denied their right of a higher education because it's too expensive. This is absolutely affordable. We had this only 20 years ago. It's hard to remember now. Other countries, Sweden, the Netherlands, have this sort of thing. So we should stand with them, the most economically advanced countries in the world, the most civilized and humane countries in the world. It's absolutely right that our country takes its place with those countries which do the right thing and fund university education through the tax system. Notice we're talking about the fees, we're not saying living costs. Under our model, people will be able to take out interest-free loans from the government to pay back their living costs later, but there will be no fees whatsoever for a bachelor's degree only. Anything beyond a bachelor's degree, that's another issue. And that is why I urge the House to support this motion.